Hey everybody, Elizabeth Nader back with you, Jersey First TV. An important subject tonight is the Murphy administration using taxpayer money to block the truth about the COVID deaths in the nursing homes. And I welcome to the show Senator Pennachhio and Senator Oroho. Guys, let's dig into this. So I'm going to start with you, Senator Pennachhio. What did we hear about on December 23rd in terms of a settlement from the Murphy administration?
Well, the timing is very interesting, Elizabeth. On December 23rd, one day before Christmas Eve, long weekend, when the news media is not paying attention, they did what's called a news dump. It was bad news, so they don't want to put any sunshine on it. And the news was basically that they had reached a settlement with the families of 119 um, uh, veterans that lived at the Paramus nursing homes, and the settlement was for $53 million. They didn't. We Senator Oroho and I wanted to know exactly what that settlement was about. We use the Open Public Records Act to try to find out. And as they have done in the past, they denied us the Open Public Records request. We've asked them in the past for other OPRA requests. They've denied that. We've written letters asking them for information. This administration, they have denied that. We had a panel specifically on nursing home and nursing home deaths, and they refused to participate. So this is the least transparent administration that I've dealt with in all the years that I've been in Trenton.
So let's go back a little bit, Senator Oroho, because we've been living in this pandemic, whatever you want to call it now, for 2 years. But we need to think back what happened in those nursing homes in 2020, early on in the pandemic, because it is absolutely heartbreaking. And I want you to remind people what the Murphy administration did to those nursing homes.
Well, Elizabeth, thanks for having Senator Pennacchio and myself. But what they did is they told the veterans homes and the nursing homes that they had to take COVID positive patients. At the time, Senator Pennacchio and I know almost all of us were dealing with the lack of PPE, what they call, personal protection equipment. We knew there wasn't, that there wasn't testing at the time. There wasn't obviously the vaccine at the time. But an executive order went out to the nursing homes and the veterans homes, basically saying that they had to take these COVID positive patients back in. Now, a lot of what other states had done was to have, and I know what a lot of the hospitals are doing now, they are having specific facilities or specific areas that are specifically dedicated towards COVID, positive patients.
Right. Instead, these all went into the nursing home. And we know that COVID is aerosol, so it just spread everywhere. Now, Senator Pennachhio, this edict from Murphy, was it any different from New York? Because you had mentioned something to me before I thought was interesting. It was just kind of copy and paste from Governor Cuomo. Talk to me about that.
Well, first of all, the edict was different. It was worse because New York did not prevent testing of patients. And for some odd reason, this administration saw fit to say we're not even going to bother testing those patients. But you're right. I managed to get a hold of the New York edict, which happened 6 days before the New Jersey edict, and we looked at the verbiage. And the verbiage was, we shared that with you. The verbiage was almost identical. So it didn't even have the courtesy of writing their own rules and regulations and edicts. Now, at that time, they did have a meeting with administrators from nursing homes. And I think the Star Ledger actually recorded that meeting. And they were told that at that meeting, if you do this, people will die. And people died. They knew if you took a virulent virus, you didn't test for it, and you locked it in with frail and elderly people, you threw away the key, that it would devastate those nursing homes. As a matter of fact, if you remember, at the same time, what they did is they opened up the prisons. They let prisoners out because, again, they knew that in a closed, confined area like a prison with younger, healthier people involved, that it could still devastate that population, and it did.
And we are talking about 10,000 deaths. Senator Oroho, 10,000 elderly who didn't have to die, who were basically locked away with this virus spreading like wildfire. It begs the question, what was the motivation? And I'm not saying that but you've probably thought often, why did Governor Murphy do this? It seems absolutely malpractice.
To me, it does, because even at the time, well, Sussex County had obviously the issue with the Andover nursing homes that had come through, and we had been hearing from different people that were involved, that they were very concerned about having the lack of the personal protection equipment. We had an email from a family that was concerned about, was the nursing home using this as a profit incentive? So we actually sent that down to the governor's office. I sent it right down to the governor's office probably 3 or 4 days before the executive order came out. Nothing ever came back. We sent the email saying, how could this possibly, it doesn't make any sense to put, COVID positive people in. And let's remember, it's at a time when we didn't have any testing. We didn't have, and people were very fearful. It's been 2 years, it's almost 2 years since then. We've learned a lot. We've learned how to, we got to learn how to live with this. But at the time, we knew we didn't have the equipment necessary in order to keep people safe. So putting those, and we also, what I think we definitely knew at the time, though, was those individuals that had a comorbidity had a very, very much higher risk of loss of life.
Right.
And so you have 10,000 people who died in the nursing homes. We had a settlement for $53 million for 119, and we all feel horrible about any family that lost anything. Right. But if they all use the same instructions given from the administration, what does that settlement mean for, you got 119 families? What's it mean for the 10,000?
Right. What does it mean for everybody else? And when you have a settlement, now that sort of ends the ability to know what was a discovery, what was in that lawsuit, what do we have access to? And Senator Pennacchio, you guys have been putting in the OPRA request. I believe you've done 4 so far. 3 have been denied. 1 is trailing and hasn't been filled yet, right?
All right. Well, what we really need, and what we were promised back in May of 2020 by the Senate President, was a oversight committee with subpoena powers. If you ask them to come and testify, they will not. They have not. Okay. But if you force them to testify under oath with subpoena powers, we can get the answers to some of these questions that we're asking. This veterans nursing home settlement is especially important because at the time the governor said that there was a bunch of bad actors. That's why all these people died in nursing homes. Meanwhile, if you take a look at the veterans nursing homes, there's 3 of them: Paramus, where the settlement happened, Menlo Park, and Milan. The state of New Jersey is completely in charge of those nursing homes. Oh. So while he's saying, if you need us, we will help you, okay, he forgot to send himself the memo. Right. So in the meantime, all those people died. Senator Oroho had mentioned some of the PPEs and the fact that they thought they were going to, be short of staff and beds and hospitals. Keep this in mind. You had the USS Comfort, the ship that was sent away. You had the Jacob Javits Center in New York that was basically shuttered and shut down. Do we ask them for the PPEs? I don't know. Do we ask them for their staffs? I don't know. Why do we send the USS Comfort away? A nursing home is not a hospital. It may look a little bit like a hospital, but it doesn't have the infection controls and the ability to quarantine and isolate people that are infected. And that's why people died.
And you're not the only ones who are asking questions. There is still an ongoing federal investigation into these decisions. Senator Oroho, there were other states the feds were looking into. They dropped some of those. They're still looking into New Jersey, aren't they?
They are. And obviously and we're very interested in any information, obviously, that the federal authorities, come with. And we're trying to dig into the same things. Not only the idea of, what we know, the instructions that were given, but also, was there any other emails or any other, phone calls or any other, messages that went from the administration to any of the other, nursing homes that are there? We've heard, now Senator Pennachhio did an excellent job of holding hearings on this. And we heard from some of the nursing home administrators who, some of them have said, they did contact the governor's office. They did say people will die. Wow. And quite frankly, apparently it was ignored. I personally know of people who have talked with me. Some of the the funeral directors who were being asked by the nursing staff and the staff that did they have any personal protection equipment that they could loan to them. Put us back at that time. The administration knew we didn't have it. We have we got a call one evening about the Booton fireman's home where they needed to get some personal protection equipment. I personally made a phone call about that and was told that, listen, Steve, we would hope we can get the PPE to all the various places, but we're concentrating right now on hospitals. Right. This was only just a few days before the executive order went out, so they knew that they didn't have the right equipment in order to be able to protect the residents that were there, or to help the residents who were positive, COVID positive infected, get better.
It's such a heartbreaking issue if you're a New Jerseyan who lost your mother, your father, grandparents, and you weren't even able to see them, in many cases, not even bury them. I mean, there were so many issues surrounding all of that. Senator Pennachhio, one thing we hoped during the election was that this would become a bigger issue because so many people are angry and so many people affected by it. It really wasn't the issue we hoped it would be. And then we have this dump of news on December 23rd. Is it possible that something is being covered up and that it was held until after the election?
Well, because of the lack of transparency, I mean, it increases the cynicism in all of us. The fact that it happened 6 weeks after a reasonable period of mourning after the election, the fact that it was a news dump on a weekend that nobody was paying attention, the fact that the governor of the state of New Jersey wasn't even in the country when they did it, and quite frankly, the fact that the press really doesn't seem to be interested in it. It seems like the opposition party, the Democrats and the press, they're circling their wagons to protect this governor. And I think that's wrong. The timing is very suspect. What I wanted to see with the OPRA request, I wanted to see all the correspondence. I wanted to see how central was that argument that you have to let these patients in and you're not allowed to test with them. Because again, if that was part of the argument, is that what led to the agreement? If that was what the families were arguing and saying, then at that point it's just not related to just one home. At that point, that edict went out to all 500 plus homes in the state of New Jersey. Another question that you have to ask is, where's this money going to come from?
Yeah.
This is a $53 million settlement. I have no clue. And if you're going to spend $53 million in the state of New Jersey, you got to be transparent about it. Senator Oroho, who's the, I don't know if he's, no, you're not, are you the ranking member on budget, Senator?
Oh, it's now Senator O'Scanlan, but I'm still on budget.
But we still want to have these answers. We want to know what is going on. Now, I remember Bridgegate. There was a lot of questions that were asked, and I wanted those questions answered. We had a bipartisan committee, oversight committee with subpoena powers, which most of us voted for because we thought it was the right thing. We have a moral obligation. Okay, this carries a lot of moral weight in order for us to figure out what happened to those 10,000 poor souls.
You're talking about Bridgegate, and that still sticks to certain people, and no one died. We're talking about a traffic backup, and it certainly has all different avenues to it. But Senator Oroho, we're talking about 10,000 dead, and we're talking about potentially more lawsuits coming. I mean, this is one lawsuit, $53 million. Do we know if there are others in the pipeline?
We don't know for sure, but we would suspect that there would be. Because when you talked about the fact that they did this announcement on December 23rd, and we had the election on November 2nd. There's no way that there weren't discussions going on. Settlements take a while to get through. So if there are any other families that obviously that are out there, I'm sure the attorney who handled the $53 million settlement for 119 families is getting a lot of phone calls. And I'm sure, and I'm sure, and this is, the idea of where this money, that's one of the things we have tried to ask about is, where's the money coming from? And if it's coming out of the general fund, if that's what the governor is expecting to use from the general fund, and let's say this is the first settlement, it could be, who knows what the number could be.
I mean, if this is the first one and it's
Yeah.
only 119 families out of 10,000, this is an open wound that has really potentially no end in sight, near anyway. Senator Pennachhio, you mentioned to me before about the state epidemiologist, Dr. Christina Tan, Judy Persa-Kelly, all giving these orders. You're a dentist. You've been in the health industry for a long time. How do you feel about that?
Don't feel well. I mean, we specifically asked Dr. Tan. She's a physician. Percy Shelley, the commissioner, is not. I understand. I think she's a bureaucrat. I think she may have had a nursing background, but certainly Dr. Tan, my understanding, is a physician. A physician with well credentials. I think she's a graduate of Princeton. She took a Hippocratic oath. So I want to know exactly what her input. Her input should have been, don't do it.
Yeah.
People will die. A person with reason would say that, don't do it, people will die. They're saying that now, by the way, okay? But even then, any person worth their salt would say, don't do it, you don't interject that virus. If you remember initially, the people that, when the virus first introduced itself into this country, where were people dying? Washington State. Where? A nursing home. We turned the TV on and they were dropping like flies in Italy over the age of 81. So we knew that it was a virulent virus, that it could be very deadly for patients that were old and frail and elderly. And son of a gun, they still did it. And if Dr. Tan, a physician, knowingly did that, I think she should be brought up before the state medical board.
I wonder, Senator Oroho, if there isn't some kind of coordination going on here. How is Governor Cuomo issuing similar orders and some other blue states? Are we looking at maybe coordination between some of these states? And why is this breaking politically? How do you deal with human lives in a political manner? It's crazy.
Well, I think at the time, I think the governors of, I think it was New Jersey, obviously Governor Murphy, Governor Cuomo, the governor of Pennsylvania and Connecticut, I believe, saying that they were trying to do a regional approach. So to me, it wasn't any kind of surprise that all of a sudden you had New Jersey, 5 or 6 days later, coming out with the same, kind of, except that New York had the testing and New Jersey did not. But quite, you saw what happened to Governor Cuomo. The legislature there started digging into the issue, and that did not happen. I mean, originally it was going to happen in New Jersey, but unfortunately it ended up not happening. And now you have, was this settlement, as you had mentioned, was this settlement to try and keep, really, detrimental information out of the court proceedings? Once the settlement, I don't know, I think we had one of the OPRA requests said that the settlement was still, or it hadn't been finalized or whatever, and so we couldn't get a copy of the settlement. But we're going to be looking, obviously, for what is that settlement. The New Jersey, and particularly if the New Jersey taxpayers are paying for this, then it's obvious. Then to me, I believe statutorily they're required to turn it over.
Yeah, we need transparency. I would like to add the governor of Michigan to that list, though. She also put them in the nursing homes. So there is something going on here with the blue states.
Now there were other states. There were other states that said we should isolate. Right. And and quite frankly, you look back on when polio was around. Yeah. They had isolation, and Senator Pennachhio mentioned the Javits Center, mentioned the ship that sat out almost empty. I mean, so they had more than enough opportunity to, create safe places and to be able to concentrate the equipment that they needed, the PPE, the ventilators at the time. Remember, there was a short supply of ventilators and whatnot. So they could have concentrated a lot of this equipment that they knew was in short supply in very concentrated areas.
Absolutely. This didn't have to happen. And they did not course correct when things started to go sideways either. So what do we do next, Senator Pennachhio? You're both focused on this, which is incredible. You're looking for the information from that fourth OPRA. What else are you doing to try to take the cover off of this?
Well, we're not holding our breath for that fourth OPRA. Quite frankly, the law says you have to give us those OPRA requests within a week, and it's been well over a month. I don't know what they're doing, but whatever they're doing, it's not going to be useful. We have the resolution to form that committee has been reintroduced. In the last 2 years, I think we've tried to make it the order of the day on maybe 5 different occasions. I'm
We
sorry,
did.
I haven't gotten one Democrat that's shown an interest for us to, and don't think that this has to be done and then the governor has to sign it. No, we do it, then the committee is formed. But we haven't had one Democrat agree that the loss of 10,000 lives. And you know what's particularly irksome? We just went through a reorganization. All leadership, everybody who's signed up and gave these fantastic speeches, how humble they are, and they all want to be voices for the voiceless. Well, I think you can get any more voiceless 10,000 dead. And yet, I think Golda Meir said it best: don't humble yourself. You're not that great. So instead of just sitting on your hands on the sidelines, doing nothing, saying how you want to be a voice for the voiceless, do something. We plan on introducing this bill again as the order of the day, and hopefully we have 16 votes. We just need 5 brave Republicans to say we want to investigate. I can't imagine. We investigated Bridgegate, nobody died. I can't imagine if the shoe was on the other foot. If this had been a Chris Christie era, we would have already been 2 years into those oversight committees. But I guess they value politics more than they value life.
Well, I concur with you. I heard at the inauguration many speeches about transparency and from the Democrats. And so this is their chance. Senator Oroho, who needs to step up on that side of the aisle?
Well, everybody in the legislature. We're first of all on a number of different issues. The Republicans keep on saying we are a co-equal branch of government. The executive branch, us, and judicial, they were all a co-equal branch of government. Right. So every single 120 legislators should look at 53 million, and we're responsible for the finances of New Jersey. 53 million. 119 families, and like I said, I'm not. God bless those families or what they went through and everything this, but you also have to extrapolate out and say, what does this mean for the rest of the New Jersey? If you're essentially saying you were guilty, why else would you have a settlement if you didn't think that there was something wrong?
Absolutely.
So now could that something wrong be the guidance that they gave to every single the veterans home and nursing home? So, and Senator Pennachhio and I and the whole Republican caucus is concerned, and both the Senate and the Assembly are saying, okay, what possibly could this mean from this administration to all the taxpayers of New Jersey? Are they telling us that it's coming from insurance? We're self-insured, right?
Yeah.
So.
Right. It's the tip of the iceberg. I think we're going to see a lot more coming down. I want to thank both of you for fighting for that. You both are always the warriors to fight for the rest of the citizens, for transparency, to push back against, just in a common sense way against some of this craziness that's been going on. We had hope with some of the new crop that got elected that we would start to see Murphy be pushed back on a little bit more. Senator Pennacchio, what can people do? Because they're going to get frustrated hearing this. They're going to be thrilled that you guys are fighting, but we need answers. And some people have very personal ties to this issue. What can we do?
Find us 5 Democrats, 5 brave Democrats that will vote with us. And by the way, the committee is not a Republican committee. The committee is going to be a bipartisan committee. So give us 5 Democrats that hopefully we can pique their political curiosity, or certainly we can just touch the better angels of their nature. Okay, where they want to find out, they want to give some respite to the families of those 10,000 dead souls.
And we've done this. And we've done this before. We've done it, as you mentioned, with they did it with Bridgegate. We also did it, and I sat on the committee on the Katie Brennan, situation. We had subpoena power. They had subpoena power, and it was done in a very much in a bipartisan basis. We had the hearings, so it's not something that is, it's not some sort of unique process. It's been done before.
Yeah.
If I may. And Senator Oroho probably remembers this back, I think it was in 2018. It could have been 2019, but it was the same administration. There were 11 children. They were handicapped kids, severe issues. It could have been Andover. There was an adenovirus. It wasn't a COVID virus, different respiratory virus.
Pennacchio, I believe. Pennacchio.
Those people, I think 11 of those children died.
Right.
And at the time, the first thing that they did, the Commissioner of Health, was he shut it down. He shut the doors down.
Yeah.
eventually they were able to quarantine people because there was 11 extra seats. Those kids died. But he was even asked at that time, and he said, look, nursing home is not a hospital. You can't segregate and quarantine like you can in a hospital. Just the air conditioning system, the filtration system is different in a nursing home than it is in a hospital. So to think that you force that virus, no testing, lock the door, let the prisoners out, was told, don't do it, people will die, and they died. There's something wrong with that. Maybe that's one of the major reasons that 119 grieving families were awarded $53 million.
It's a lot of money. Nothing replaces someone you've lost.
Exactly.
But I concur with you. There's something big behind that. That's no small amount of money. So the call is to 5 Democrats, 5 heroes who can join everyone else to finally get truth. So this never happens again. It shouldn't be a political issue. This is an issue of humanity and doing the right thing. So that's what you can do to the audience listening, is especially if your senator is a Democrat, is to call him or her and say, please stand up for all these families, stand up for New Jerseyans who just want to know the truth. Senator Oroho, there's something really cleansing about finding out the truth, isn't there?
Oh, very, very much so. Very much so. And particularly, I mean, so that something like this never happens again,
right,
is one of the things. But let me tell you something. Being truthful is cleansing. I'll tell you that. It is cleansing.
The truth shall set you free, and that's what we're looking for. Thank you to both of you as you continue to fight this. We will check in with you as the weeks go by. Hopefully we start to see some justice and be able to actually know what happened. Unfortunately, we didn't get that information in time for the election, but we still need to have it. So thank you to you both for coming on and for your continued fight for all the people of New Jersey. We appreciate both of you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you very much.
All right, guys.